Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here in Ohio.
Thanks, Carl.
We are now exactly 7 weeks from the election. Here you are in Ohio, where the polls say you trail, Governor. How do the two of you close this gap?
Oh, polls go up and down. We have plenty of time with, of course, debates coming up, 4 debates in the month of October. We'll be taking our message to people across Ohio, and I think they understand. This is an election about the choice of what kind of America we're going to have. If it's going to be an America dominated by government, why, that's the course the president's put us on. If instead we're going to turn to free people choosing to pursue their dreams, that's the course we'll bring back.
It seems as though the domestic campaign has been overshadowed a tremendous amount by events in both Middle East and North Africa. Just in the last day or so, Senator Barrasso, the Republican on the Senate Intelligence Committee from Wyoming, said about Benghazi, and I quote, and he's been briefed by the Intelligence Committee, he says, "They are stonewalling. To me, there's a cover-up going on. They don't want the American people to know what happened," and he's referring to the Obama administration. Your thoughts, Governor?
Well, I think there have been a number of members of the administration, including the State Department, that have said this was a terrorist attack. The White House and the President are continuing not to admit what their own administration is saying. And I think it's pretty clear that they haven't wanted to level with the American people. Look, we expect candor from the President and transparency, and he continues to refuse to acknowledge what is said by the other members of the administration. This was a terrorist attack. We were attacked, apparently, by al-Qaeda. And it's a very troubling development.
Congressman, does that disconnect in the message between the intelligence community and even the State Department and the White House suggest to you that there's an attempt to obfuscate a cover-up?
Well, look, when the director of the Counterterrorism Center comes to Congress and testifies and says this was a terrorist attack, I think the State Department said so as well. So I think you would want to ask that question of the President. Why is he not on the same page with his own administration officials who are saying that this was a terrorist attack? We'll leave that up to you to decide whether this is a cover-up or not. I think as facts unfold, we'll get to the bottom of this. And we need to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again. You know, there are obviously issues of security, but the administration's come to Capitol Hill. The administration's said that this was a terrorist attack. I think Carney said the same thing.
And so what does it say about the administration that it was reluctant to admit that it was a planned terrorist attack, Governor?
Well, I think they want to do their very best to keep the people of America from understanding exactly what happened. We expect candor, we expect transparency, particularly as it relates to terrorism. And the President has failed to
He's not
protect.
used that word to describe it.
Well, it's clear that it was a terrorist act. If al-Qaeda assassinates American diplomats, why, that's an act of terror. And that's what this was, and that's what has been explained by other members of the administration. The White House doesn't want to admit it, but that's what happened. And it's a very troubling and disturbing development. It indicates that matters in the Middle East are not the calm, placid setting that people might have expected. What's going on is not just a reaction to a film. Right. This is a continuing confrontation that we have with forces in the Middle East that are radical, violent Islamists, and this is something which is ongoing.
Is the President downplaying it for political purposes, or do you think he doesn't get it?
Well, I think when the President said that developments in the Middle East are like bumps in the road, I think he badly misunderstands the nature of what's happening in the Middle East. Not just the assassination of our diplomats, but a Muslim Brotherhood leader becoming the president of Egypt, 20,000 people being killed in Syria, Iran moving towards nuclear capability. The developments in the Middle East are far from being bumps in the road.
Yeah, Carl, I would say this is part of the story of when we project weakness overseas by gutting the military with the president's devastating defense cuts, by equivocating when you speak overseas about these issues, it projects weakness. And when America projects weakness, our adversaries are more willing to test us. They have more of an incentive to attack us. And our allies are less willing to trust us. And so what we see, the culmination of the Obama foreign policy, is the projection of weakness. We disagree with that. We believe in peace through strength. We believe in speaking with moral clarity and firmness of purpose overseas so that we are resolute. And if we're resolute, then our adversaries will be less willing to test us and our allies will be more willing to trust us.
If I'm hearing you right, you're saying that this is an extension of the apology tour or the administration's, over the years, essentially soft-selling American exceptionalism overseas to downplay what might be our agenda and goals worldwide to get along with our neighbors?
Well, I can't ascribe exactly what the motives were for the President and the administration of not coming clean very early on, pointing out that at that stage, in the very early days, they didn't know exactly what had happened. But as soon as they've learned, as the intelligence community has now indicated, that this was a terrorist attack, They should have acknowledged that as opposed to continuing to pretend like this was something other than that.
Yesterday, Governor, you said that the president had been misleading the public with false, inaccurate, and deceptive advertisements, and you mentioned on social issues, on taxes, on the auto bailout, etc. You stopped short of calling him a liar, but you were very, very blunt about that. Since then, the Senate Majority Leader, Harry Reid, who shares your Mormon faith, a member of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, has suggested that you're sullying that faith with your candidacy, and I wonder if you could respond to that.
I really don't have any response to Harry. He can say whatever he'd like to say. This isn't a race about Harry Reid. This is a race about President Obama and my differences and points of view about the direction of this country. And I have a very different view than the president does. We've seen the results of his economic policies and of his foreign policy. The nation does not want 4 more years of what they've seen over the last 4 years, and I think that's why they're going to vote for real change.
Congressman, obviously you're not a member of the Mormon Church of LDS, but we've had the majority leader of the U.S. Senate weigh in on this, and with respect to the governor and his faith, since you don't have it, what do you think of having religion brought into the campaign this late in the process?
If there's one thing we've learned about this, we always get over-the-top comments from Harry Reid. We're used to hearing things like this come from Harry. These kinds of comments have no place in it. Look, we're offering the country a very clear choice. We think the president's record is terrible. Look at the jobs. Look at the fact that unemployment's been above 8% for 43 months, 15% of Americans in poverty, 23 million people struggling for work. The president's basically saying more of the same, but with higher taxes. That's going to kill jobs. We have a different philosophy. We have a different agenda. We have specific solutions to get people back to work, to get economic growth turned back on so people can go back to work. We're offering the country a very different choice of a better future, a real recovery versus 4 more years of the same failed policies. The president doesn't want to talk about that because he doesn't have a record to run on, so he's going to talk about anything else to try and distract, to try and distort, to try and win by default. I don't think people are going to buy that. That's why we're here in Ohio talking to voters about what it's going to take to get people back to work, to get this country back on track. And I think in the final analysis, people are going to understand, I don't want 4 more years of the same stuff I've been getting. I don't want 4 more years of debt, of doubt, of decline. These guys are offering real specific solutions that get us back on track, to get America headed in the right direction, peace through strength, strong foreign policy, economic growth, going back to work, higher take-home pay. Those are the things we're talking about. That's what this election is going to be about, irrespective of whatever Harry Reid says from the Senate floor.
And one last question, and I know I got to let you go, but what about the NFL refs? How about those Packers there, Wisconsin?
That was an interception. This was not a touchdown. And like I said this morning, we need to get rid of these temporary refs, just like we need to replace the Obama administration, and have some real refs and real leaders to fix this problem.
Now you know that the Democrats are going to say now you're meddling in an active labor
discussion.
discussion.
I know.
This guy knows how to pivot. You know that? Yeah. We went from refs to replacing President Obama.
That's what we were saying this morning. Look, that was an interception. I think just about anybody who watches that will know. I very rarely see
those
the
of us in
game
New England don't have a good
clearly.
excuse, I'm afraid. We're
going to have to talk about Brady when we're off the air here. All right, so you're a week away from the first debate, Governor, and I know that they're going to give me the hook here. It's said that you're raising expectations so high by all of the anticipation of all of this, and that there's so much riding on it now that it may be even too risky for you.
I don't know exactly how to raise or lower expectations. The president is obviously a very eloquent, gifted speaker. He'll do just fine. I presume he'll present his points of view. I'll point out my differences and describe the course that I would take the country on. People will make a choice. I think in terms of the 2 different speakers, people can make their assessment as to who's the better speaker. I think I have the facts on my side. I think the American people will be drawn more to the vision I have for the future of the country, but time will tell. But I've never been in a presidential debate like this, and it'll be a new experience.
Governor, good luck.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you, Congressman.
Carl, good seeing you again.